Hey everybody, Rex the dog here. I'm doing reviews more regularly on the channel. Clair Obscur, Expedition 33, undoubtedly my game of the year. Undoubtedly my gaudy. A game I was hyped for quite a while. If you go back to it was an Xbox Developer Direct, I think in February, they did a whole Clair Obscur section. I was like, oh man, I'm hyped for this game. And you go back to other stuff and I was like, oh, this is potentially really good. Dude, it turned out to be an absolute banger. So I'm going to kind of give some of my opinions on Clair Obscur here. I've talked about it. I talk about it constantly on stream. It comes up all the time. Obviously, we played it on stream. You can go back and visit the VODs or whatever. But let's have a little talk about Clair Obscur. How it handles sort of, I guess, its gameplay, its story, the art style, the music, how it, I personally think it holds up and stacks up against other JRPG systems out there. So the gameplay, all right, okay, turn-based JRPG made by French people, and although the combat is turn-based at its core, it's layered with more interactive mechanics like time dodges, you've got parries, you've got free aim shots, you've got reactive inputs doing enemy turns, so it's kind of taking in, some stuff we have seen before in turn-based RPGs, going back to Super Mario RPG. Or stuff like that. We've had turn-based elements before, but to have so many here, and for it to almost the parrying and the dodging to almost make it feel like you're playing to compare it to something modern that people are doing that in, you're playing a Souls-like game or whatever. It's so cool, and you're getting rewarded for perfect timing and parrying a full combo. You gain extra AP, the action points which allow you to do these big follow-up attacks and the expedition counters and all this sort of thing. It's so cool, and the characters are building up the character builds sort of matter in this, right? Each party has member has different mechanics, they've got inbuilt class to them, kind of in Final Fantasy 9 or something. And you can build up, some of them build up stains or stances or fill the crest of mana and all this stuff. It's really cool. So it creates, all that kind of variation in your build, and then also responding to what's going on, your attacks and their attacks in real time. It makes the boss fight, it makes the boss fights in this the boss fights in all good JRPGs. They're not just am I high enough level? They become a puzzle that needs to be solved, where you're noticing patterns, deciding when to break an enemy, when to guard, when to go all in, and that's added to, all of that is added to, which you would have it in great RPG. I'm getting that in Metaphor, which I'm playing at the moment. You get all that kind of stuff in Metaphor, but then you get the added stuff here of your responsiveness as well. It's you can solve the puzzle, but then can you parry? You gotta add that in as well. So if you dislike kind of the pure passive turn-based battles, this offers way more engagement, and you aren't just selecting commands and then watching, you're reacting. It is so sick. It is the evolution of mainstream turn-based RPGs that we haven't had, since FF10, you know what I mean? For real, honestly, I'm not going to be one of those people who are going to be oh, JRPGs and have been dead since Final Fantasy X, because I know that's an argument that's out there, because no, because there's been a lot of bangers that we've played in the interim, I'm really enjoying Metaphor at the moment. We've had all the stuff from Atlas, whether it's Shin Megami Tensei or Persona. We've had, the stuff that came from Mistwalker, Lost Odyssey, and I really like Blue Dragon. You got the stuff that does come from Square still. You've got their, I forget the name of the studio, but you've got them putting out the Octopath games. You got the Live Alive remake. They're you can look at the Tales series. The stuff happening. There is stuff that is certainly out there. But in terms of I feel that the systems that you have here should have been the evolutions that you see in FF12, FF13, FF14. I'm just glad it's here. I'm just glad it's here, and I'm so hyped it's here. But I think just waiting so long for these kind of cool developments, that now that they're in, it's oh, this makes so much sense. Now, do I want this in every RPG? No, I don't. But do I want more games coming out like this? Yes. Do I want games that evolve on this? Yes, please. What stumbles in kind of the trade-off here is, I guess, if you don't like that and you do just sit back and select, the turn-based might feel really jarring here. What else is kind of a bit weak in gameplay for me? I would say that the exploration and level design is like cool, but some of it can be really, really weak and just kind of feel like linear corridors and no mini mapping. Can't even get lost within those like slightly linear corridors, but kind of whatever, right? Kind of whatever. Yeah, I don't know. Just like the combat here is so freaking sick. It's just basically taken like the foundation that you'd find in like FF10, Fursona, whatever, relying on order, command, buffs, debuffs, stat management. You've got all that stuff that's there, and then adding in this reflex-based element. It's so cool. It shifts. Yeah, it's especially for the boss encounters. It's shifting some emphasis from pure stat accumulation to actual player skill. I like it. I like it. And so that's where the true role-playing comes in, right? Because, I mean, like with a lot of these games, like, you know, like Final Fantasy game or whatever, it's not an open... This is not an open-ended RPG. You have, like... And you have no choice in how the story goes. You get to pick, like, an ending at the end. But that's, like, literally the end. Besides that, you have no impact on anything. And that's fine. I'm here to, like, take in the story they're telling. You know what I mean? But you do get, like, so much control in the battle system, which is great, especially for some of, like, the secret bosses and the later bosses. Well, no, not the later bosses. I'll talk about it later. But some of the secret bosses and older bosses and stuff like that, they're, like, a real challenge, which is really cool. Where the blending strategy of, like, build, positioning, skill joints, timing, reflexes all together. Oof. It's so cool. It's so cool. Echoes of, like, as I said, like Super Mario RPG, Paper Mario even, the Judgment Ring thing in Shadow Hearts, all that kind of stuff kind of coming through. Okay, I want to talk about the art style. Really cool. Really cool. Although it's like a realistic, like photorealistic art style for like the characters and whatever. What's really cool about that is like you've got these photorealistic characters and you're dumping them in this this world that's got this really like surreal, dreamlike, evocative, you know, not purely realistic world. Like, you know, it's in the title, clair, obscur, like the contrast between like light and dark, and that's just like completely woven into some of those mechanics. I'm not gonna talk any more mechanics, but also like the art style, the music, the world, the story. It's really cool, and the visual impression, although like as I'm saying, like some of the places you're going through are like corridors, the visual impression that's given by like the world around you and some of the crazy elements, and then also the enemies. It's really cool that like you're like these realistic things, and then you're fighting these, what they called, the chroma, I've forgotten, but you're fighting like these enemies that are all like fantastical and stuff. It's really cool. Like the environments mixing like organic and natural forms and these weird like twisted man-made structures and like this strange like, you know, juxtapositions. Like I'm thinking about like the Eiffel Tower, you know, sort of building in it. I'm thinking about the city. I'm thinking about those like coral reefy areas. It's so cool. And it all works well, you know. Maybe it's because it's a turn-based game, but despite being Unreal 5, I didn't really get any sort of the Unreal jank that we get in a lot of stuff, which I think is a consequence of developers not knowing how to use Unreal 5. But there we go. Soundtrack's crazy. Soundtrack is crazy. I'm so hyped for the Game Awards and to like hear this played by the orchestra, and hopefully they give the music more and more showcase than just like exclusively that in the medley of the Gaudy, the Game of the Year 6 nominations. Hopefully they give like a bit more space and whatever. But dude, the music is like, if this game sucked, I would still be talking about like, the soundtrack to this. But like the game is like incredible as well. So like, and it's made for the game. It's not only you're getting these like cool, you know, these really like emotional whatever compositions for stuff that's happening in the story, but like the stuff that they time and they integrate into like, you know, like the battle themes and the boss themes. It's like there's a boss here where like the music is so good. It's like it's honestly like One Winged Angel level for me. It's honestly like FF7 Sephiroth One Winged Angel for me. It's like, I think it's like One Winged Angel. for like a new generation. There's like this boss that comes in and it's already like really hyped because it's like an accumulation of like of a bunch of stuff, and it starts and it's really hard and he's got some crazy mechanics, and then also this music hits in and it's like bam, and it's oh god. My god, my god, my god, my god, my god. The story, I don't really want to talk too much about the story. I'm gonna kind of sort of keep this spoiler free. Really, really like emotionally resonant. I'm just gonna say that. Really emotional resonant, feels mature. Not in the mature of like an edgy, like, I'm gonna kill you with my gun way. But emotionally resonant, distinctive, you know, something really refreshing I haven't experienced for a while. Like, this would have made a great book. This really would have made a great book. I know it did a movie, whatever. We'll see. But I don't think that, like, I know some people criticize this for the story being, like, maybe too cryptic and there being abrupt plot shifts, but I honestly think that it really, really plays that line well of just, like, the stuff for you to figure out and the stuff where just, like, hey, this is what's going on. And you can go really deep into it, especially if you start, like, going into the side content and actually, like, there's a whole sister character which you basically don't interact with, essentially, if you just go gun line through the main game, but B line through the main game. But if you do like the side content and you go to like, and you don't need to do this, right? You're gonna get the themes, you're gonna get the story, whatever, but you get like so much richer detail on kind of like the specifics of what's going on and a bit more context to certain situations if you go through some of the side content, which I really recommend people would do. I really, really recommend what people would do. Dude, I just like absolutely gush over this game. Gameplay wise, like visually stunning, musically rich, emotionally mature story, inventive combat system. I mean, the story, I still think about the story all the time, man. Like, I finished this game months ago and I still think about the story all the time. If we gotta talk about cons, they kind of dip it a little bit for me. But otherwise, it's like a perfect game. Honestly, for me, otherwise it's like a perfect game for like what I want and what I'm looking for and the type of things that I enjoy and the Rex thing. I gotta say, there's like two things are dipping it down. One, doesn't bother me too much. Number one is kind of like the linear of the dungeons are just being a straight line. Honestly, I don't mind that much. Because they're pretty to walk around and the combat encounters are so fun and yada yada yada. I don't mind that much. Okay, this is where spoilers now. Spoilers. Okay. There is a, and I'm not gonna spoil stories much. I'm just gonna spoil a gameplay mechanic that's linked to story. But spoilers now. There is a final section of the game, the final act of the game. You acquire an item. You acquire something, they're called pintos. You acquire an item that is literally in its description and in its function breaks the previously established limits and gimmicks of the game. Okay? In terms of your how powerful your character is. So what you can do is you can equip, and you're supposed to, right? Because it makes a big deal, and there's a narrative reason, and there is a storytelling reason. There is a narrative reason, a storytelling reason for why you get this item, and I understand that, right? So you get this item, and getting this item allows your previous upper limit on attacks to now just be like fully broken. So it's like, it's that JRPG number go up thing that's cool, right? When you figure out the mechanics and you do the stuff and you make a broken build. But it, like, in design, it gives you this, and there's a reason for why it gives you this. The problem for this now is now you're gonna learn this. You're gonna attach this item one by one to each of your characters so they learn it. And then if you've got like half a brain, you're gonna see solutions of how your characters are gonna become super overpowered and just like freaking go. Now, I like and I appreciate and I understand the story and narrative and whatever reasons that you get this. It is also definitely required for all of the numerous. It is also required for all of the numerous side bosses and the big super boss that you can go do. It is required for those things. And they still remain even really challenging after you've broken your characters. However, what it means is that like the final like story required confrontations are really, really easy, but they're treated in the story like they're not, and so they feel like really anticlimactic. I know you can just choose to not use that item, but like you're literally meant to, and it's part of the story and whatever. If they could have delayed you giving it to you, if they could have delayed giving it to you, or make like the final story encounters just like a lot harder, that would have made it a lot more satisfying. But I will say that like the last section of the game, from a story perspective, the side content at the end of the game is like peak. But from a story perspective, the end of the game is reduced by the gameplay mechanics being trivialized. The end of the game, you have these like the story's still like crescendoing, and you have all these amazing things going on. But there are moments here, like the final encounters with these like final guys you've been like focused on or whatever. It is diminished. It is diminished by the gameplay being trivialized. Everything else surrounding it, like the story, the presentation, the music, the characters, everything is amazing, but that's kind of trivialized. I'm just gonna kind of maybe stop rambling. I think this game's sick. I think this game's really, 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 really great. I think if you like this game, I think, you know, get your butt into Metaphor afterwards. Maybe get yourself into Rebirth, if we're talking about kind of like modern games. I didn't go back to like Chrono Trigger. It's like the move. I don't know. FF10. This game's great. My game of the year. My favorite game probably for a very, very long time. Well, I don't know about that, but it's very much up there. It's super up there. It's super up there. I love this. Clair obscur. If you want to talk to me about Clair obscur, drop in the comments below. I stream basically every day, which is cool. So if you want to stop by there, hang out, watch me play games like Clair obscur and other stuff that I eventually review and whatever, then come hang out. Discord in the description, Telegram, Twitter, all that jazz. Peace out. Love you.